About the middle of my sophomore year of college, this was around January, February of 1997, I just started noticing some strange symptoms. Prior to this, I was an athlete. I ran, 5 miles a day, played basketball, played soccer. It was my life. I loved athletics. And so when something was going wrong with my body, I was quick to notice that I wasn't able to do things as well. And it started as just kind of a tingling and numbness in the bottom of my feet, kind of like your feet are asleep. But, I'd stomp and it wouldn't go away, and it started to progress up both of my legs. And from the initial time when I started feeling the symptoms, it took about 2 or 3 weeks before it got so bad I really couldn't walk very well. I would trip and fall. I'd try to go out and run and I'd fall. I'd try to get up the stairs and I'd need to really pull myself up. And after I saw that there was something a little more serious than just a little athletic injury going on, and told my parents about it and made an appointment to see a neurologist. And at that point they ran a bunch of tests and they were trying to rule out different neurological illnesses, which were pretty scary. They thought maybe I had multiple sclerosis or meningitis. And the third thing was something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know what it meant. But come to find out, that's what I had acquired. When I went into the doctor's office about 2 weeks later, after being hospitalized, I was paralyzed from the waist down. I had God in my life during this time, but God was kind of on the back shelf. When I went away to school, I kind of became a little more independent than I needed to be and thought I could do everything on my own, and wanted to experience life, experience college and have fun, and I didn't see how I could do that and have God too. So I kind of put God on the shelf. The doctors told me there's no medicine, there's no surgery, there's no therapy, there's nothing we can do for you. And when you tell someone that, what do you have to lean on? What do you have to put your hope in? And even though I had kind of put God on the back shelf, I still knew He's the answer. He's the one thing that can get me through this. And I laid in the hospital bed the last night before I went home and just cried and cried. And before then, I had just been kind of a stone. I hadn't really let it hit me what it was happening. And I just finally broke down. I just said, God, I know I haven't followed you like I should have. I haven't let you be Lord of my life, number one in my life. But God, I'm in need. I have nothing else to turn to. And will you please take me back? Will you please just show me you're still in my life? And that night He gave me a dream. And God's just so faithful. Like when we call to Him, even if we run from Him, to answer us. And He showed me a picture of my heart, and I could see down in there. And there was all this stuff, kind of junk, that I tried to fill my life with to make myself happy, to be more independent and in control of things. And He just pointed to all those things and all those quick fixes that I had tried. And there was one bright spot down the bottom, and I heard God's voice say, that's all I am to you, but I want to heal your heart. And there was just such a peace that flooded my body. And from that moment on, I just knew, even though I couldn't walk, even though my life on the outside seemed demolished, that I was going to be okay, and that God was still in my life and He was in control. So that was a big turning transition point for me for how I was going to deal with the situation. I had, from day one when I went home from the hospital, couldn't walk, couldn't move. I had my parents who were full of faith, but I had a church back home that believed in the power of God and of healing. And from the beginning, they came over and prayed over me. This group of people, there were about 8 or 9 of them that would come over every Thursday night for a year. Never gave up praying for me. We had prayer meetings in my little living room and just believed for God to do a miracle. That was probably one of the biggest pushes to build my faith up, because I saw everyone around me believing that God could do it. So when you surround yourself in that kind of atmosphere, that's what it stirs your faith up even more. And the second thing was, of course, just getting in God's Word and reading about it. And as I started to read the Word, reading the Word developed your faith. And so my faith started rising, and it just started bubbling up inside of me. And even though on the outward, my legs weren't working, and physically, I was really just trapped in a body. Inside, I was just coming alive. And just like God showed me in the dream of my heart, he was healing my heart and giving me a new faith in him. I got to a point where I was like, Lord, if you don't physically heal me, it's okay. And that was huge, because that was, in the beginning, all I focused on was, I want to walk, I want to run, I want to do all these things again. You know, it's all been taken away from me. That's the most important thing in my life. But as God built my faith up and built the love relationship up with him, that became the most important thing in my life. I just wanted to be with the Lord, and no matter what was happening on the outside, it was all right, because I had a joy that was unspeakable. I had a new life, a new heart, and I didn't want that taken away. But 11 months had gone by, and it was January 22nd of 1998, and we were meeting in my little living room, you know, like we always do, and we were just starting to pray, and I had to wear these on my legs all the time, because if I didn't, then here's one of them: Jesus love you, loves you. And I had written scriptures on the back, like claiming healing over myself. And anyway, I had to have these on my legs. And we were sitting there and just started to pray. And one of the ladies who was praying for me, she just said, you know, Jessica, I really feel like God's really just wants to touch you tonight in a special way. And things like that had happened before in other prayer meetings. I said, okay, you know, that's great. I'm always up for a touch from the Lord. And we just kept persevering and praying. And I just kind of got quiet, you know, and just was trying to listen to what the Lord wanted to tell me. And I just felt like he was saying, do you really trust me? How much faith do you really have? And I said, you know, in my heart, I'm like, God, you know, I've read all these scriptures. I know you can heal. I believe it. You've trained, you know, instilled this faith in me for 11 months to believe in the impossible. I believe you can do it. And I know that, you know, you're the same yesterday, today, and forever. So I believe that over my life. And you know, of course, you know, faith without works is dead. So of course I was going to have to do something. And I just felt like the Lord said, well, I want you to just try to stand up and take a step. And I'm looking down at my legs and I'm thinking, okay, there's no movement, there's no feeling. How am I going to do that? And I had to remember, you know, you can't go by what your eyes see. You know, when you have faith, it's not a visual thing. You have to go by your heart and what God's telling you to do. And it's a step of faith. And that's what God is asking me to do. And so I looked up at my mom and the lady that was praying for me, and I said, I think I'm supposed to try to stand up. Can you help me? So they got under my arms and just kind of lifted me up. And my legs are just dangling. You know, I had no feeling, so I couldn't even feel if they were touching the floor. And the people just surrounded me, just kept praying and persevering. And I just felt like God's voice just said, take a step. And I just closed my eyes and said, okay, Lord, I know you're not going to let me fall. You know, I'm just going to trust you. So I had to lift my leg up, because I couldn't do it myself, lift my leg up and place it down. And as soon as the sole of my foot hit the floor, the feeling of blood started tingling and moving in my feet and started coming up my leg. And I had not felt anything for 11 months in my legs, so I was just, you know, surprised to feel anything. And then I could feel muscles twitching and my ankles popped and became firm. And prior to this, they were just floppy and limp. And just things started rushing up my legs. I could just feel the insides, the muscles and the nerves and the blood just all starting to move. Something that was lifeless was coming to life. And so I picked up everyone had their eyes shut, still praying. I picked up my other foot and put it down. The same thing happened. A feeling just started rushing up my leg, and bones are popping, muscles are twitching. And before I knew it, I let go of my mom and her friend and just started taking small little steps into the next room. And I turned around and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm walking. I don't need help. I'm up. Nobody's holding on to me. I'm doing it. I turn around and everyone's just jaws on the floor. And they just are looking at me like, I mean, they'd never seen anything like it. And I just stood there and I just started weeping. I mean, that was my first response, because I had never felt the power of God and the tangible presence of God so strong ever in my life. And I just knew he was holding me. You know, I knew that he have brought the life back into my legs. And I just shut my eyes and just started to praise Him and thank Him for just His faithfulness and His love for me. And like I said before, just that He would come and visit little old me in my little living room. I wasn't in a big healing conference or church service or anything. It was just in my living room. And for those people, that they got to see the fruit of their labor and the fruit of their prayers for praying with me. And so there was a lot of rejoicing that night in my house. And it was a miracle. It was a miracle.